There's something coming from Jupiter. It's not a message, not exactly, but it's a signal so powerful that physicists have been trying to figure it out for years. It's a mystery that involves an absolutely insane amount of energy, and it might just challenge what we think we know about the vacuum of space. So, what is really going on out there? Let's get into it. 2 trillion watts. Just take a second to let that number land. That's the amount of power scientists have measured flowing between Jupiter and its tiny volcanic moon Io. To put that in perspective, that is way more power than our entire civilization on Earth uses at any given moment. So, the billion-dollar question is, where is all that juice coming from?
All right, so there is an official story, the one you'll find in the textbooks, and it's actually a pretty cool, fascinating chain of cosmic events. On the surface, it seems to connect all the dots perfectly. Okay, so here's how the mainstream theory says it all goes down. First, Jupiter's massive gravity is constantly squeezing Io, like a stress ball. This superheats Io's core, making it the most volcanic place in the entire solar system. These volcanoes are constantly erupting, blasting tons of ionized gas into space. This gas then forms a giant donut-shaped cloud around Jupiter called the Io torus. And as Io plows through this cloud, bam, it's supposed to complete this gigantic electrical circuit, and that's what generates those 2 trillion watts. Pretty neat and tidy explanation, right?
Well, here's the twist. The theory we're digging into today points out a huge, kind of fundamental problem with that whole picture. It's a contradiction that, if true, could unravel the whole thing. And this really gets to the heart of it. A 2 trillion watt electrical circuit needs a conductor, right? Something to actually carry that current. Here on Earth, we use copper wires, but the space between Jupiter and Io, well, it's mostly empty. It's a vacuum. The author of our source material, Mathis, he doesn't mince words. He argues that even with that gas cloud, that Io torus, there just isn't enough stuff, not nearly enough charged ions in that space to carry a current that powerful. It's like trying to power a city with a single tiny wire. Now, to be fair, mainstream physics does have a potential answer for this. They talk about these really complex things called Alfvén waves, which can transfer energy through magnetic fields in a plasma. But our source argues that, in this case, it's just not a complete enough explanation for a current this massive and this stable. So if it's not a normal electrical current, what in the world is going on? This is where the source paper we're looking at proposes something pretty radical, a completely different, totally unacknowledged force of nature. He calls it the charge field. And get this, it's proposed as a fundamental repulsive force, basically the exact opposite of gravity. Now in physics, we have the standard model with a handful of forces that run the whole universe. Proposing a new one, that's like discovering a new primary color. It would completely upend our understanding of everything. So let's be super clear here. This isn't just another flavor of electricity. The theory sets it up as the mirror opposite of gravity. You have gravity, the great cosmic hug, always pulling things together. And then you'd have this charge field, a constant cosmic push, always shoving things apart. A universe defined by a constant balancing act between these 2 primary forces. Okay, claiming there's a new fundamental force is a massive claim. So how do you even begin to prove it? Well, how does the author connect this wild theory back to that very real 2 trillion watt signal coming from Jupiter? Let's see how the numbers supposedly work. So the key, according to this paper, is finding a way to translate between 2 different languages in physics. The language of energy, which we measure in watts, and the language of force, which we measure in newtons. If he can bridge that gap, he can check if his repulsive force theory actually matches the energy we're seeing. And the proposed bridge, the Rosetta Stone for this translation, is the speed of light. The author claims that c isn't just a cosmic speed limit. He says it's a fundamental constant that actually links the energy of his repulsive charge field directly to the force of gravity. It's the universal conversion factor between the 2. And this is the big aha moment in the paper. After running all the calculations using his new framework, he finds that the force of gravity between Jupiter and Io should be exactly 106.7 times stronger than his proposed repulsive charge force. Now, why does that number matter? Because he claims that exact ratio is what perfectly predicts and accounts for those mysterious 2 trillion watts of energy. It's the mathematical smoking gun. So let's just take a step back. What if this is true? What if he's right?
This wouldn't just solve one little puzzle around Jupiter, it would completely flip our understanding of cause and effect across the entire cosmos. So to recap, the standard model says Io's volcanoes erupt, that spews out gas, that creates an electrical circuit, and that circuit generates the energy. Simple. A leads to B leads to C. But this new theory flips the script completely. It says the energy field, this charge field, is already there. It's a constant, fundamental property of the universe. And it's this ever-present energy field that is actually causing Io's core to superheat and driving those insane volcanoes in the first place. The volcanoes aren't the cause, they're the effect. I mean, the implications here are just staggering. We're not just talking about Jupiter anymore. This theory suggests a fundamental repulsive force has been hiding in plain sight this whole time, that it perfectly explains the energy signal, that it completely reverses cause and effect for Io's famous volcanism. And maybe the wildest part, that this force has been unknowingly hiding inside the equations of Newton and Einstein all along, just waiting to be properly identified. It is a truly mind-bending idea, a complete reimagining of the forces that build our universe. And it leaves us with this incredible question. If a force this fundamental could actually be overlooked for centuries, what other cosmic secrets are still out there, hiding just beneath the surface of what we think we know?